Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good day, everyone. Let me introduce myself first. My name is Rizka Saputri, and I'm a student in International Relations Department at Muhammadiyah University of Yogyakarta, batch 2019. And on this special occasion, I would like to discuss with you about the basic principle of Islamic politics. Well, what is principles? Well, guys, principles is basically something that are considered true or fundamental by an individual or a certain communities. These fundamental will later then become their foundation of act, their foundation of thinking, and their foundation of behavior. Later on, the Islamic politics principle can be defined as the foundation of how Islam conducts its politics in relation to the state affairs, including how it regulates its Muslim society, or what we know as Ummah. Now, moving on to the discussions. Guys, as we know, we will find many principles inside the Islamic politics. However, on this special occasion, I will tell you at least 5 most basic principles that are exist in the Islamic politics. The first principle that we got here is the principle of amanah or trust. Amanah is a trustworthy attitude with honesty and a sense of responsibility. The people who can carry the amanah can later be called as al-amin, or someone who can be trusted. In this context, Ibn Taymiyah explained that this principle commands political leaders to convey and to realize the mandate that has been entrusted by the people to them, whether it is their right, whether it is their obligation, their property, or even their assistance. Moreover, the principle of amanah should become the basic principle in the activities, policies, and the relation between leader and the people in state lives. The attitude of amanah has been regulated in the Holy Quran in Surah An-Nisa, verse 58. Now, moving on to the second principle. The second principle we got here is the principle of deliberations, or in Bahasa we know as musyawarah. The principle of musyawarah or deliberation is actually has been settled in the Holy Quran in Surah Ali Imran, verse 159. So, in the system of Islamic governance and politics, policy and decision must be based on the agreement of shura or musyawarah. Hence, deliberation or musyawarah is one of the bases and one of the most important principles in Islamic politics. Musyawarah or deliberation itself is one of the commandments of Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala in the Holy Quran, as I said before in Surah Ali Imran. This command is primarily related to the affairs of human life, especially in state lives. This then became a pillar of one public life in state lives, including being the main element of democratic government. Now, after we got the principle of trust and the principle of deliberation, or as known as musyawarah, we will then have to jump to the third principle, which is the principle of justice. Which one of you who is watching right now is an activist of justice or a justice fighter? Well, in Islam, especially in Islamic politics, the principle of justice talk about social and economic justice within the Islamic political system itself. Besides that, in wider practice, this principle also becomes the formula of justice between the government and the society. Or, not only that, these principles would become the formula of justice between the society and the government. Even the justice between an individual to individual, or societies to societies. Or in other words, it means law and justice for all the barrier of societies. The principle of justice could be found in the Holy Quran in Surah An-Nisa, verse 58. Here we will find that justice is indeed needed inside the political system. The first principle, the second principle, the third principle. Now we are in the fourth principle. What do we have in the fourth principle? The fourth principle is the principle of equations or equality. According to Mashkuri Abdullah in the Quran, there are principles or values that must be practiced in the life of society and state, and one of them is the principle of equality. Equality in Islamic politics is where all the society's barriers such as ethnic, race, even other religions and so on and so forth are distinguished and should be treated equally. The principle of the equality also means that every individual in society has the same right, has a common right to the opinion, and a common responsibility in society. In the Holy Quran, Surah Al-Hujarat, verse 13, have told us to not feel that we are way more than another, because we are actually the same. This later then become a legal settlement of the justice principle in Islamic politics. Now we are here in the fifth principle. What do we have in the fifth principle? Well, what we have here is the principle of justice. What comes to your mind when you hear about justice? Is this the liberty statue in the United States? Or it is about freedom of doing whatever we want without thinking about others? Well, let me explain to you. According to Sheikh Mustafa Al-Galayani, freedom includes individual freedom. For example, the right to choose our religion. And it also includes social freedom, economic freedom, which for example, choosing our occupations, and furthermore is political freedom, which for example could be the right to choose who we want to be as our leader. Liberty in Islamic politics isn't about liberty in general. The freedom in this principle refers more to the liberty that leads to the goodness and the well-being or welfare of Ummah. Or, on the other hand, it also means that the freedom of our right without harming ourselves or even others, and obviously a freedom that is not far further from the Islamic teachings. The verse about freedom can be found in Surah Al-Kahfi, ayah 29, where in this verse explain that we have the choice to choose and that to make our own decision. So those are at least 5 basic principles in Islamic politics that we can learn and talk about in these occasions. Well, I will hope to see you again to discuss about further and many other principles that are existed in the Islamic politics. See you and have a good day.